Flack Talk with James Canning. The podcast with the inside scoop on journalists from San Diego and across the nation. If you're a communications pro, have a nose for news, or you're just nosy, this is the podcast for you. Now here's your host, James Canning.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Flack Talk. Today, we have our first meteorologist. And we don't just have a meteorologist, we have the chief meteorologist for CBS 8, Karlene Chavis. Thank you, Karlene, for being here. So happy to have you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm happy not only to be your first meteorologist here, but also a chief meteorologist. And it is my pleasure to be here today.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to getting into the conversation and learning all about your career, what it's like to do your job. I think our listeners will love it. But before we get there, I got a few questions I'm going to ask you. I'm calling this the on-the-record rapid-fire questions. So, Karlene, what is your favorite word?
2 singers and 10 comedians, and I'm still gonna yell it every time you see me in. What's my favorite word?
Simple enough. Ha.
Ha?
H-A. Ha. H-A. Like, ha. Like that. Like when something's funny.
Yeah. How did that become your favorite word?
Because, like, you can say it in so many different ways. It's like, ha, like, gotcha, or like, ha, or like, ha. Like, I don't know why, but it's just like, it's simple and straight to the point. And honestly, if you don't think something's really funny, you'd be like, ha. Like, so then people kind of get the point. They're like, okay, that wasn't that funny. Never mind, I'll move on. But I don't know why. I've always loved that word.
That's great. That's great. Do you have a least favorite word?
Oh, goodness gracious. Yes. And as a meteorologist, I think this kind of weirds people out a little bit, but I hate the word moist. I cannot stand that word. And there have been times where I've had people say it to me like on air, and they know that I don't like that word, especially like our main male anchor, Carlos Chavis. He has said it on there, and I'm like, sure. At the church, sir, like on live TV, I'm like, I cannot stand that word. I just think it's so weird. I don't know why.
That's interesting. Moist.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
I'm sorry I said it. I mean, I had to say it, I guess. Doing what you do every day, is there anything that, gets your motor going creatively or spiritually or emotionally?
For me, like, especially being in being a meteorologist and being in this field, like, for me, it's a lot of just the connection to our planet and the connection to just Earth. And I'm also like a really big outdoorsy person. So for me, just my motivation is just trying to connect people to like the importance of our planet, preserving everything, conservation, how this is all intertwined. We have environmental series called Earth 8, which kind of just, because you can't really talk about it in like a 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Someone wants to know like how hot it's going to be the next day or how cold it's going to be if they need an umbrella. So whenever I'm at work, because it's not just your on-air presentation, it's also the stories that we're doing behind the scenes that we're going to eventually present to you. That's something that I always think about, is how I can connect San Diegans and even people outside of San Diego. I've worked in other markets and still have a connection to those people because of social media. Just how you can connect yourself to the earth. It's going to be around for a long time. We got to preserve it. That is something that's a huge motivator for me.
I want to get into that a little bit later on. I think that's interesting to me, that because I'm bad at science. So anyways, we'll talk about that.
I got you. It's all good.
Yeah. All right. Hot mics, they're the bad thing. You gotta be careful what you're saying.
Yes.
But if you were to get caught on a hot mic, what is your favorite curse word that you hope that they catch you saying?
Just let them know. Motherfucking shit, goddamn asshole.
My favorite curse word. Oh gosh. The thing is, I like them all. I don't think that I have a particular favorite one. I don't know. know. That one I got to think a little bit about because I'm not necessarily sure I have a particular favorite curse word.
Okay.
But my favorite thing is when people actually use other words instead of curse words, like son of a biscuit eater or like
That's
fudge
great.
nugget or something. Like, I love when I hear things like that. And if a hot mic happens, you might actually hear me saying something like that too.
That's interesting. Fudge nugget. I've never heard that.
Nugget or farfig nougat or something like that. I love that when it's a substitute for the actual curse word. When someone says something like ridiculous, you're like, "What did you just say?"
Yeah, it's even scarier or weird when if they don't have children or something. It's like, why the hell can't you just say the bad word? I don't
Seriously. I don't, and I'm just a weirdo. I think I just took that from my childhood because my mother was like that. My mother, oh gosh, my grandmother. Sailor. But yeah, like my mom would say other things because she didn't want us to curse. And so I think I just kind of took that from my childhood of my mother being that type of person because she's such like a introvert and like talk about sciencey, super sciencey.
Okay.
Really big nerd. And so she never wanted to like say those words around my sister and I. So instead she would use substitutes. And I don't know, it's always kind of stuck with me. And I always thought it was really funny.
Okay, I gotta just say this because you're taking me down this track now with you talking about your family and curse words. My nephew just this week texted me, and my own text, not in the group chat, and he's like, "Did my mom ever say bad words in front of grandma?" My mom, and I responded to him, and I said, "No, maybe when she got older she'd say stuff." I said, "I still don't say bad words. I never said bad words in front of grandma or my dad," and he never responded. And I have this feeling that he got caught saying a bad word in front of my sister, and he was trying to get some ammo to be able to say them. But anyways,
I'd agree. He was either looking for ammo or he was looking for some sort of like validation and permission to be like, did this ever happen? So he'd like test the waters, but shut it down.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get into you. Sorry, enough about my damn family. Here we go.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. So, Karlene, tell us, how did you decide to become a meteorologist? Wait, I'm going to say it again. Meteorologist. You know how much I was practicing trying to say this word? Because I feel like I'm not enunciating. Anyways, how did you become a meteorologist?
You said it so wonderfully right there. I loved it.
Thank you. Maybe I'll cut the rest of that other stuff before. We'll find out.
All right. So, yeah, talking about just being a meteorologist, it's very funny to me because I guess I kind of, in a way, came out the womb like this because my parents used to say it when I was super young. I was like 6 or 7, and they were just like, "Yeah, you're going to be a meteorologist someday." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I have no idea what you're talking about." And I didn't really know what the word meant. But I did have a passion, since I was a kid, for just geological sciences and earth sciences. Mm-hmm. And I was a kid who was playing with dinosaurs instead of Barbie and making my own weather balloon and not realizing, really what my parents were saying. And so later on in life, I also really liked books. And I was a big reader when I was growing up. And so I ended up going to college and changing my major about 3 different times. And even when I got into the journalism school at Arizona State University, I was there as a reporter. And I wanted to be a radio reporter and do entertainment. And then I switched over to news, just trying to figure out everything. And eventually I landed on meteorology because my mentor, he was my teacher at the time, later became my mentor. He was the one that kind of steered me in that direction. And he's like, a lot of the stories that you pitch to me are environmentally based. And he's like, I know you have a huge connection to wanting to save the planet and Earth. And he's like, how about you go down the path of meteorology? And I was like, okay, sure. And I was about to graduate, actually. This didn't come along until my senior year of college. And I was like, I don't want to stay here anymore. I'm already a super senior, so
super senior. Oh, that sounds fancy.
I was. We'll get to that. As to why I was a super senior, 5 years instead of the traditional 4. But yeah, he was like, "How about you try weather?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." And so I literally was on spring break and left the airport and went straight to ASU and did like suitcases in hand, sat down at the computer, was there for about 8 hours that day. And I've been in front of a weather computer ever since. And that was, about 15 years ago.
Wow. Now, you mentioned earlier when we were talking, your mom kind of had a science-y I mean, like, how do you think you got into, was it something with your parents that you got into playing with dinosaurs instead of Barbies, or, making a weather balloon? And can you tell everybody what a weather balloon is? Those who might not know.
Oh yeah, no problem. My mom's sciencey, but it's more of computer science. So like she was never really into a lot of like geological things like that.
Okay.
It was just kind of me, which is very interesting because it's like you don't really know. I guess I didn't really know much about like weather, but just all the things that I would gravitate towards. Like I just saw something I thought was fascinating. I remember going and seeing hot air balloons, and they had like a little booth that also had a weather station. And so like I saw someone making like a weather balloon, and so I decided, okay, I wanted to learn how to do that. So my mom got me this video on how to make one. And so you're just talking about like a balloon that has like helium in it, and it just I say don't do this now.
Okay.
Because this was back in the day where I didn't realize, like, now I'm like telling people don't put helium in a balloon and like release it and everything. But like back when I was growing up, it seemed to be okay. I was a kid and my parents let this happen. I would never allow people to do it now.
Okay.
Because the materials that like the National Weather Service uses, they're like biodegradable, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I tried to like make my own, and so it was just a matter of me like having this big oversized like helium balloon, and then having like a cord attached to it, like so like if it did pop, it's like a little parachute that you add to it. Like for me, it was like a little piece of fabric that I created. God, it was so long ago, so it would like come back to Earth. But sometimes it didn't, especially if you didn't do it right. And so then all of a sudden you release a balloon into the air, and I'm like trying to literally teach people not to do that, like at my job all the time.
Yeah. Well, look, we've evolved. Like the things that people shouldn't do have changed over time, and when it comes to our environment, right? I mean, that's
of course, because now we're seeing more of the impacts of that.
Correct. And that's science, and that's all those things. So it was good then, because that got us to you being here today, and now you're giving the good word of what people should or shouldn't do. So that's okay.
I'm liking this full circle moment.
Yeah. So you kind of told us, like, you sat down, you sat in front of that weather computer, and you that was your path at that point. But where else have you worked? So you're here in San Diego. How many years have you been here? Remind folks. And then where were you at before that?
Okay. Well, I've been here almost 6 years in San Diego. And so from the computer desk back when I was in college, I ended up taking some time off for about a year after I graduated from college. I enrolled in a program to get my master's. And coincidentally, when I got into that program, I also got a phone call from my mentor that there was a job opportunity in Palm Springs, and they were interested in me. At the time, I was just living in Southern California and just like taking some time off from school.
Yeah. And
I got the phone call, and so he's like, hey, I know that you want to stay close to your family because it's only like a 5 hours, 30-minute drive, and then it's like 45-minute flight. And he's like, hey, there's an opportunity in Palm Springs. And I said, okay, sure. So I went ahead and I went to the interview, and they offered me the job on the spot. And I was really excited about that. That cool. Ended up being a little bit more than 3 years.
Okay.
And from Palm Springs, so I was the weekend morning weathercaster there because I had not finished my degree.
Okay.
And so I ended up enrolling in a couple of programs at UC schools, and then I enrolled in the one for Mississippi State to get your master's degree. But that seemed to be the most feasible one, because I'm like, these student loans are racking up.
Yeah.
I got to get a job. I'm like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, I can't be here. Like, at least like with Mississippi State, and now you have Penn State that also offers a program. You can be in your profession. You can be anywhere in the country just as long as you have Wi-Fi.
Yep.
So I ended up enrolling in that program while I was also working full time. So I got no sleep for the first 3 years of my career.
Really?
That was a lot, like averaging like 3 to 4 hours of sleep, because I was also the overnight shift, the early morning shift. So I'm waking up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We have a newscast at 4:30.
Yeah.
We go all the way. Yeah. So it was a lot, but it was worth it. I ended up finishing my degree, my program in Miami, because they had different like capstones that you could take at the end.
Yeah.
And so I chose the one that was on the island of San Salvador in the Bahamas.
Oh, wow.
It sounds fancy, but when you're sharing a room with not just a roommate, but also all the creatures of the of the world, of the Bahamas, we had crabs in our room, ginormous spiders in our room, roaches, everything.
Wow.
It was a rundown. It was only run down because it had been beaten by so many hurricanes.
Yeah.
And it was an old geology research center. And so, like, even we're talking, this was back in like 2013. You're still washing your clothes in a machine, but you had to hang them on a line to dry.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so it was intense, but we really buckled down, and we were there for about a week, and we had to finish our big overall exam, and I did that. And coincidentally, yeah, as I mentioned, I was in San Salvador, which was not too far. The island of San Salvador in the Bahamas, not too far from Miami. So I got the job in Miami a little after 3 years of being in Palm Springs. I was there for a little over 5 years in Miami. And I will never forget, I was at a friend's wedding, about to leave to go watch one of my closest girlfriends get married. I got a text message from my agent saying there is an opportunity to go back to Southern California and be a chief meteorologist at the CBS affiliate there. And I was like, okay, that's cool. We'll talk about it later.
Wow.
Yeah, and because I remember getting off the phone and I'm like, that's like a dream job. There's no way that that's gonna happen. And I hung up the phone with her, and I called her when I got back home from the wedding, and she was like, no, they're like hardcore interested in you. And I'm like, okay. So ended up a week later flying out, and we kind of went back and forth for a little bit after the interview. It was an all-day interview, and they eventually offered me the job.
Well, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
It seems like you paid your dues with whatever that means in the news business, right, for folks, and then the opportunity came when you maybe least expected it, right? I mean, I'm sure your friend loved the fact that you got the opportunity to celebrate, and you didn't let that overshadow, but then you came back and you're like, all right, I'm about to lock this down. That's awesome.
Exactly. That was the whole thing. I didn't even tell her until like afterwards, after the interview. And it's like in the back of my head, I was just thinking, I was like, oh, well, that would be a really good opportunity. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this open bar, and I'm going to enjoy this dance floor before I even think about that.
Yeah. That's good. That is good. So you talked about your teacher that became your mentor. Are there any other people that you kind of drew inspiration from as you evolved, in doing weather and so forth?
Well, that's a very interesting question for me, because growing up, especially here in San Diego, I am I'm not the first female chief meteorologist. I know that, especially we had Dagmar. Mm-hmm. But I am the first Black chief meteorologist in the history of San Diego television. Okay. And I also just happen to be a female as well. Yeah. So for me, growing up, I didn't see a lot of people who were in my position. I used to watch Al Roker a lot, and I think Al Roker's great. He's got a fun personality. Yeah. And for me, the inspiration was more so, and that's actually kind of where my mentor was going too, my mentor is a older white gentleman.
Okay.
And he was like, this is your opportunity to shine. And the fact that there was a lack of that, because I even asked him, I said, maybe I should be a producer. Maybe I should do this. And he said, no. He's like, you're just trying to steer away from this profession because you don't want the attention.
Yeah.
But he's like, the attention is yours to have because you're qualified. He's like, you're educated. You also are very personable. And he's like, you have something about you that I feel like viewers would connect with. And I think that you're just trying to take an easy way out. And so he was kind of
held you accountable a little bit. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so he was the one who steered me in that direction. As far as like getting an education and getting a master's degree, you don't have to be a meteorologist, but I wanted to. I took an internship at ABC 15 in Phoenix, and there was a meteorologist on the weekend at the time, Rich Dalquist. And I remember finding out that Rich was Ivy League educated. And so that actually kind of made me perk up a little bit, because I'm like, here's this man who is highly educated and doing this. And it's like, it's not, to me, that kind of drew me in. It's like, you want to be that person. And it actually kind of made me respect him a little bit more when I found that out, and like, listen to him a little bit more. Since like, to know that you have, because let's be honest, this profession is more of like, it has been for a very long time. And I love the change that's coming with it, that it's people who are just really pretty on TV.
Interesting.
Okay. But to find out that those people also have educational background, I think that matches like what they're doing, I think is phenomenal. And so for me, that was kind of my inspiration, and just the lack of diversity that I saw. I was like, well, you know what? Sure. How I want to be that person, because I am a science loving little black girl at the time. And it's like, I didn't see myself on television, but I wanted to.
Yeah. No, that's an inspiring story. I'm hoping that young journalists of color kind of can hear that story and see the power in it. Because I think that it's interesting. Like, I grew up in Detroit, lived in the city of Detroit. It's a majority black city, and I don't think I ever saw a black meteorologist, if I really think about it. I mean, anchors, yes, but never a meteorologist. And it was always very interesting to me. Because, you know, there was people of color in authority in all different areas, but that's amazing. Like, I think your parents have to be proud, right? I mean, they saw something in you. I mean, they were like, you're going to be a meteorologist. And now you're like, you're the one. Like, you are the person that they thought you were going to be, and probably then some, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and they've been a great support system. They've been so helpful. I remember some of my job interviews that were out east. My dad, he lives in Connecticut, and at the time he was in Connecticut. He kind of goes back and forth between there and Baltimore, but he was like, I'm going to take you to your job interviews. I'm going to do this for you. It was like really sweet. And then my mom is in Arizona now. They split when I was super young, but they've been the most amazing co-parents in the world. Like, they really, it's funny when I tell people about my parents, just like, they've been best friends for so many years. And so they've made it work. And their goal has always, in a way, been that she needs to stay in science. That's where she is really strong at. And in the fact that I'm just so passionate about it, they're like, we want your passion to spill over into other people.
Yeah. And
they've always been very supportive and nurturing of me. And it's just funny when I did say, okay, I'm going to go into weather and be a meteorologist, I can still hear my dad's loud, I told you so. Why didn't you listen to me all this time? He's like, you know how much time you could have like not wasted in college and been a super senior.
Oh my God. Well, you know, I mean, that parents, you know, they always know best. They always think they know best, but you need to take your path, and that's great that you did it. I want to dig into something you said earlier when you were talking about, you know, people just think folks on TV are like these attractive people, these pretty people. Like, tell me about, because like the reality is you're not out there making up temperatures, right? They're not just like, all right, Karlene, go out there and tell everybody the temperature and wear a nice dress, you know. So can you talk to like our listeners about what really goes into preparing a forecast and telling folks like what it's going to be like out there for the next 10 days?
Well, yeah. Okay, of course, like we gotta look nice and put a nice like suit or dress on, and then turn around and like do our makeup. But my main focus is more so looking at forecast models. So a lot of the models are provided by different computer systems. We work with WSI. That's a big, huge one. I think like basically kind of taking over everybody.
Okay.
And so that one's a big one. I never really worked with AccuWeather, but we also have a collaboration and work very closely with the National Weather Service in different offices. And so the National Weather Service here in San Diego, I've worked with them now twice, because I initially was working with them back when I was in Palm Springs, California. And now I'm back here. And I remember when I first got back, I got an email from the senior meteorologist there, Alexander Tardy. He was like, welcome back. And so you work with them, they're great. And so they have a lot of the more scientific data, because our job as meteorologists on TV is to try to break that down and make it digestible for average everyday people who don't have a science background.
Right.
So when I'm getting in, I'm reading a discussion that they have created, and they've made it public knowledge on their website, weather.gov, and I'm breaking down what they're saying. So I'm reading all these different scientific aspects of it, talking about the jet stream and like isobars, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so talking about barometric pressure. And so then I have to interpret what they're saying to make it seem more digestible for viewers at home. So then I'm just saying, okay, so they're being very descriptive about an area of high pressure. So they're talking about a closed low or cutoff low or subtropical high, or talking about the jet stream, all that. So then I turn that around into my own personal forecast, also based off of my knowledge of living in San Diego. I know an area of low pressure is going to be coming in. So like today, perfect example, we have a low that's coming in over the weekend. We had high pressure yesterday. You saw a lot more sunshine. You're noticing it's a little hazy outside right now. So I try to make viewers, junior meteorologists, I'm like, when you start to see more of those high clouds coming in and you hear that we're talking about rain in the forecast, that's a sign that things are about to change. When you see some of that upper level moisture. So I try to make that more, I guess, people friendly.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right.
We obviously have different graphics that do depict temperatures and wind speeds and relative humidity. But then what I love, my favorite part, is really like the meat of it. And that's when you see the high pressure system on the map, and then you see a low pressure system, and explaining how this is going to change up in our forecast over the next couple of days, and why are we going to see rain more favorable on Sunday during, I don't know, say 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Well, that's because the low is on its closest approach. So trying to make those things more understandable for our viewers at home, that's a huge part of it. And then also putting this out on social media. My station in particular has a CBS 8 app, and so we have a weather blog on there, and just try to like kind of guide you throughout the next 8 days. So we just know, I'm the type of meteorologist, I don't want to just regurgitate things to you. I want you to understand why this is happening. So even if you see like different types of cloud formations, you're like, oh, okay, that low is still present. Or if you see high pressure, or you see clear skies, you're like, oh, high pressure's moved in. I've had people actually, even kids, kind of explain that to me. They're like, I heard you say that it was clear today, so I knew it was high pressure. And I'm like, oh my God, yay.
That's amazing. Like, I think that's, so I really appreciate that explanation. And to all the listeners out there, Karlene is doing the work so that your ass can be lazy and just know what's going on out there and decide what kind of coat you're going to put on, what kind of pants you're going to put on, and how to dress. Along with, I mean, I don't mean to dumb it down, but that's what we are. Like, Karlene is the smart one, folks. So the next time you complain, these damn weather people don't know what's going on, she fucking knows. It's like, she knows. You just...
Seriously?
Like, right?
Where's the hate coming from? Because some people do, they're like, well, you didn't Like, what about this time? I'm like, okay, look, I am not going to Google your address
Yeah.
and tell you exactly the forecast right over your home. Nobody has that technology, but I'm just trying to make it as simple for you as humanly possible.
Right. Let me ask you this, like, have you ever, like, it sounds like most of the places, at least that you talked about today, like, have been warm climates or places that I assume are warm climates. Have you ever done work in, like, cold weather climate? Have you ever wanted to be in a cold weather climate? I don't know, like, because it's different, right? Like, when I moved from Detroit to Seattle, there were things about the weather that I remember people talking about, like microclimate. I was like, what the hell is a microclimate? Like, I never heard that when I was in Michigan. And maybe they said it and I just didn't pay attention. But
well, now you're here and you like live in an area with 4 different ones.
Yes. It's wild. It's wild.
It really is. I love it. I think it's so cool. I have had job opportunities. I've been offered jobs in cold weather climates, and it's just, I was like, nah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I lived it. Yeah. I don't blame you.
I'm gonna tell you right now. One of them, was actually where you previously lived. One of the places you just mentioned. Yeah, they offered me a job, and like they knew that you're coming at me and saying like, hey, we got to get you to leave San Diego, California. I'm like, at the time I was like, there's no amount of money that will get me. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was very flattered, but I was just like, it didn't feel right for me at that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I made the decision that I did. I felt that's what was best for me.
Yeah.
And I was offered a job in Boston a long time ago, and they ended up having like one of the worst winters ever, that the snow was still in the ground in May. And I'm like, oh my God, thank goodness I know.
Yeah.
I grew up, so I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. And
okay.
I remember the reason that we even moved to Arizona and I grew up there was my mom, my sister, and I were in a car and we slid across ice. And my mom hit a tree. And she heard my sister's seatbelt pop in the back seat, and my sister hit the back of my mom's seat. And my mom was just so frustrated. She had had enough of being stuck in snow. She had enough of ice.
Yeah.
And she was just talking out loud. And she was like, where is the hottest place in the United States? Because this is ridiculous. And I literally look up at her. I'm like 9 years old. And I'm like, Arizona? We moved 2 weeks later. And my mom has not wanted to live anywhere else.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's interesting.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, you remove like the variable of cold, and when I moved to this part of the country, people were like, yeah, you don't have to deal with that shit no more. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. I don't have to shovel. It's awesome.
Exactly. Oh God, that shit's awful. I just remember doing that, and I was just like, I can't. I helping my mother. I'm like, I don't want to shovel a sidewalk unless I really have to.
Right.
I'm not saying that I'm completely closing the door on those opportunities.
No, I get it though. I get it.
I'm just like, it's not my top one. No.
Yeah. What have you? Maybe down in Miami or anything. Have you ever had to be like out in, like a crazy at any point in your career, like a crazy live shot where you always see all those things like where it's raining and people got galoshes on, and here in San Diego we don't get a lot of that. I mean, we recently had some stuff like that, but like I don't know. Is that like a weather meteorologist's dream to be out there and do those kind of live shots? Have you ever had to? I don't know.
It might be somebody's dream, but it sure as hell isn't mine. I'm gonna tell you that.
I got you.
I had to do that one time for hurricane coverage back in Miami. Everyone kept telling me, they're like, "Oh, the clothes that you're going to use and wear in your live shots, you'll want to dispose of them because they'll just smell horrible."
Oh wow!
And because you're basically the water of Biscayne Bay, which
I
don't even want to know what the heck is in there. Was like drenching me, and I did have to do that in Miami. I did actually twice in Miami. For me, a lot of my live shots have actually been like crazy fun stuff. Back when I was in Miami, they found out that I was from Arizona, and so I'm a huge Cardinals fan. They're just very disappointing. So like the Cardinals were playing the Miami Dolphins, so they had me out at like a tailgate and stuff like that, just hot dogs, just like talking to people. So it's been more of those type of live shots.
Got it.
But yeah, I've definitely done the crazy weather live shots. They tried to do that one time here when we had really big crashing waves that came up on the boardwalk in Mission Beach, and so they had it like kind of blocked off. But that one was funny to me because I'm there after this happened, which was in the morning hours.
Yes.
So you still have the barricades that are up. But people are not listening. They're just going about their business.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely blocked off, and people are still like just walking back and forth. And then I'm doing my live shot, and all of a sudden this dog's doing its business behind me, and I'm just like, what? Like, it was just so funny to me. But that's like the only like crazy live shot, weather-related live shot I've had here in San Diego.
Okay.
It's like, oh yeah, here was the water earlier. Now this dog's taking a poop.
Yeah. Oh my. You know, given your connection to outdoors and do you have like a favorite season, or do is I mean, I know people don't think there's seasons here, but is there like a time of year that you really enjoy?
Fall. I love fall. When it's been super hot all summer long. It's been, especially because you have July Fry.
Mm-hmm.
We start to get those really hot temperatures, and that lasting through August. I love fall. I am a PSL basic bitch. Like,
wait, what's a PSL basic bitch? What does that mean?
Pumpkin spice latte.
Oh my gosh, pumpkin spice latte. I got you.
Yes, I am one of those chicks. It's like, oh, one little sip, and I'm just like frolicking, like, oh, my scarf, my boots, yay.
That's great. That is great.
That's a good time. I love that time when we start to get some of those fronts that move through and it cools things down, and fall. Easily.
Okay. I got a couple more questions before we get to our final kind of breaking news round for some more fun questions. But have you, like, it sounds like, I mean, you've done a lot. Are there things that you would say or advice you would give to aspiring, meteorologists or just journalists in general?
Yeah. Number one, be kind to yourself. Because unfortunately, we live in a day and age. When I first started in this business, social media wasn't really a big thing. It has definitely developed over the years. And fortunately, that allows a lot of people who don't know you personally, don't know what's going on in your private life and things like that, just see you for about 2 minutes on air, and they can say some of the nastiest things. And like, that can be very discouraging, especially when you're starting off in the business. Do not allow that negativity to impact you.
Mm-hmm.
It can make you have imposter syndrome. It can make you doubt yourself. Like, I've heard so many stories, and even dealt with my own personal issues, especially some of it's been race related. Being the first Black female chief meteorologist in the history of San Diego television, I received quite a bit of hate mail when I first got here. But what I didn't do was completely latch onto that. Someone told me to keep a folder, and I have, and I still to this day, if I get a really nice email, I will put it in there. It's called Keepers.
Okay.
And it's all the positive things that people have said. And in this business, especially, people love being trolls on the internet, because there's no accountability. They're hiding behind an account, and you don't really know who it is and what they look like. Just be kind to yourself, because that person's going through something in their own personal life. They're having a bad day. They have some sort of insecurity. They're taking it out on you. That has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. That's great. I've talked to a couple, especially television journalists, women. It's a tough business for you in general, and then given other circumstances, and being first Black meteorologist, chief meteorologist here, there's got to be people. I'm assuming there's got a thick skin that has to you have to kind of create or have or grow. I don't know.
I would say for me, it was a matter of growing, because I didn't know. I knew, how would I put this? I knew that people would be critical, but I just didn't realize how critical. And I've had everything from my race to my hands. I've been told I have man hands. I'm 5'8". I'm not a tiny woman. Yeah, exactly. Like most women are a little bit shorter, and I'm 5'8". So like I've had someone like call into a station and be like, she has man hands.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh yeah. Like I was in my 20s when I started my career. I'm in my late 30s now, and my body has fluctuated. And I've had people literally take a screenshot of how I looked in one dress. And mind you, it was after Thanksgiving. And like I enjoyed myself with Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh, Karlene's drinking the Kool-Aid because a bunch of other people were pregnant at my station. And they're like, oh, she's pregnant and stuff like that. And my weight has fluctuated. And I've had even people to this day, like a couple months ago, it's like, oh, are you pregnant? Are you expecting a child? It's like, don't say crap like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like being like, you have no idea what's going on in my personal life. And so like for you to even say something like that, because number one, it's not true. Well, number one, you shouldn't be asking that.
Correct.
Period. And number two, no, it's not true. But I did have some health issues that I was dealing with personally.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little hard to hide at the time because it did have to do with like my stomach. And so I was just like, no, it's something completely different. But it's like, I shouldn't have to answer that.
No, you shouldn't. People are, people sling arrows, but they should look at themselves. That's the reality, because they're saying all these things that they probably couldn't even live up to. So anyway, well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I think there's a lot of folks out there, a lot of young journalists that'll appreciate that. So thank you for sharing those stories and that situation. Let me ask you this. So before I got one final question, because I've seen this and I'm curious about what your take is on the, how it affects your profession. So I've seen this guy, and I don't know his name, but admittedly I follow him on TikTok, and I wish I would have wrote his name down before we started talking here. But he does this thing where he will incorporate like song lyrics into his weather forecasts. And so like you could give him the Tootsie Roll and he would like somehow incorporate it, or you could give him I mean I've seen a million of these, and have you seen this guy? Like, do you know who I'm talking about?
I know exactly who you're talking about, because every single time he posts something, I get my friends who send me his clips.
Got it. Okay. What do you think about that? Like, how we talked a little bit about social media earlier and how it impacts the industry and so forth. I mean, do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
I think it's pretty cool. I know, like, and like I've seen like journalists do it like left and right. I've seen like reporters do it. I've seen anchors do it, especially in Atlanta. And I don't know, I forgot which market that person works, but I know exactly who you're talking about. I can like picture him right now.
He's like a white dude that like I think has like children, and like it's funny, it's great, but I gotta imagine that adds a whole nother layer into your planning there.
It does, and I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Kudos to him. Like, I think it's really cool because it also draws people in, and like look at the target audience when you're doing something like that.
True.
He's also posting it to like TikTok and like Instagram and stuff, and so it's like trying to draw in a younger audience, and I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love, if there is any way that you can get people fascinated with local news again, because people are trying to getting their news from other sources. If you can draw people into local news and you can make it digestible, fun, things like that, I welcome that.
Okay. All right, so I got some final questions, like this breaking news round. We're going to break down a couple. I think they're interesting. I think our listeners will think they're interesting questions. They maybe dig a little bit more into your personality. Okay, I think we've gotten a lot of it here, but I think we'll get even more. So, do you have a childhood like celebrity crush?
It's funny because I had quite a few, but there's one that really stands out. So like growing up, like aging myself a little bit, like Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement was like the huge heartthrob back then. Oh my God. I loved JTT. I loved Usher. Oh, Usher was so amazing. Like My Way.
Yeah.
And then just, different crushes, even Bruce Willis, but that's a whole nother story.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, but I would say the one that stands out the most is Ryan Gosling.
Really?
Because I still have a crush on him. That is still my celebrity crush. Like back in the day before he was doing Drive and he was doing La La Land and now he's Ken, Ryan Gosling was on a show called Breaker High. And it was like a high school that was on a cruise ship. And like they were a crew that also worked on the boat, but then they also went to high school there. And he was on there and he was like kind of like a goofball bad boy. And he was so cute and so funny. And I told you my favorite word is hot. So like anything that kind of makes you laugh.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome. And so I remember him on that in Mickey Mouse Club. And just, I used to watch a lot of his indie movies. Lars and the Real Girls, like one of my favorites. So it's just like he's been my consistent crush from all the way when I was a kid to even right now.
Hey, Ryan Gosling, if you're listening, I don't know. I don't know. Karlene can tell you. I don't know, because we're not going to get into her personal life, but I'm just telling you, like, Ryan, if you're listening, maybe I can help you.
That would be awesome. But I'm just saying, I think my dude might not be happy with that. But it's okay.
Well, there you go. There you go. Yep.
I said I want a hall pass. It's okay. I said, babe, I love you, but if Ryan Gosling like walks by, like, you don't exist.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. A little personal life. There you go. That's all you get, folks. All right. So, who would you trade places with for a day?
Ooh. The first person that comes to mind is Megan Thee Stallion.
Really?
Yes. I know people probably have like these deep thoughtful, philosophical answers. Like, no, she's a bad bitch.
All right.
I love her. Like, I am always on her Instagram. Like, I love everything she stands for. She is a huge advocate for mental health.
Yeah.
She is educated.
Yeah.
Like, she's a bad bitch. Like, she's so much fun. And in my head, like, we're besties.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't have twerk skills like that, but like if I trade places with her for a day, like I hope that like all of a sudden I could and I could just do all that. Like she to me, she is one of the coolest people. Like I just love her. I love how she likes horror things. Like I'm a huge like scary movie person.
Okay.
Like, no, I would trade with her. Right. Oh, she is amazing.
Megan, all right, I like that. I like it. Have you had any weird jobs that weren't like in journalism?
Well, I had
or they could have been a journalist job. I don't know, but
yeah, I've definitely had some weird experiences in journalism. And journalism itself is just definitely a weird job. Like literally, my schedule is different, like almost every single week. But I really haven't had any like weird jobs. But I would just say that I didn't have the most traditional. I haven't had the most traditional work history.
Okay.
I at the age of 12, I signed with a modeling agency, and I was a professional model all the way up until 27.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so I was really heavy on it when I was in high school. Like my first job ever was a Tommy Hilfiger commercial. I've been in different teen magazines. Like I've done Skechers. I've done a lot of different things over the years and over the decades, actually. And that to me was that was kind of a weird job because like you're a kid, but they're talking to you like you're an adult.
Yeah.
And it was just, there are a lot of, for me, what was kind of also weird about it and like just being in that community was a lot of the girls that I grew up with, they decided not to pursue high school and college. And I decided at that moment, because when I first got into it, I was in middle school. My mom, I would go by myself to different shoots. And then I asked my mom to join me because it just didn't feel like I didn't want, everyone's path is different.
Yeah.
But I did not want their influences rubbing off on me and trying to change my path. because
Right.
I already wanted to do it. I had in my head I was going to do this to pay for school.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to get kind of caught up like, oh, I don't need to do that. And for me, like that just didn't feel right. So that was kind of like a weird aspect of it, just being so young and being in a field like that. And like when I was offset, like pictures of me when I was a kid, like a cousin of mine just recently posted a photo on Instagram of me, and I had put like, this was a picture of me modeling job 26 years ago. And
Yeah.
like 26 years ago, you look like a grown ass woman in this picture.
Right. Wow.
So it's like, yeah, being in a field like that where I'm a kid at heart. When I don't have makeup on, I look like a kid, but then people treating me like I was an adult or having adult type of conversations with me, I'm like, no thank you, I just want to have a childhood.
No, that makes sense. And that just goes to show you had a good head on your shoulders. I mean, you knew where your boundaries were and where you needed guidance, and you brought in the folks to help you stay on the straight and narrow, and look where you are. You're doing great. It's amazing.
Yeah, my parents are wonderful.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Ooh. I would love to hear him say, "You did good, kid. You did good."
Great.
Because for me, that would validate everything that I've done. From trying to help people, like right now, like whether it's breast cancer awareness, or whether it's trying to put a smile on someone's face, or just doing my job, all the things that I've just done over the past few years. Like I've tried to help other people. I've always been very open about that, and I've had viewers even reach out to me. They're like, I'm surprised you responded back to me. And it's like, why wouldn't I? Of course, like if I tell you, like, I'm here to help you, and so my door's always open, my DMs are open. If you're looking for assistance, like help, like if you like just want to say something nice, or if you're looking for advice about something or anything like that, like to me that means a lot, because that's why I'm here. And helping kids in school, I've had people, oh my gosh, I've been at schools where I've done like lessons on weather, and I've had parents come up to me and be like, my kid talks about you all the time, is so happy to meet you. I have a science nerd at home, like, thank you so much. She looks to you as an inspiration. I remember one time I was out in North Park having a beer with a couple friends, and I was in line to go to the bathroom, and someone came up to me and she was just like, Karlene? I was like, yeah. And she's like, I gave her a big hug, and we like exchanged like hugs and everything, and she was like, you're the reason that I'm in science.
Wow.
And to hear things like that, like she's like, you're a big part of that, like I see you all the time, and I have this passion, and you make it okay. And so just things like that, that's so freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like, so
that's
to
cool.
hear him say you did good, kid, that would make me really happy.
That's great. Well, Karlene, this has been fantastic. I'm wondering, before we wrap up here, is there any last things you'd like to share with our Flack Talk listeners?
Just do you, boo-boo. Do you. Whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you get up in the morning, like, do it. Like, unless you're breaking law, don't break laws. But I'm just saying, like, just do you, because everyone's different, and I feel like that's how you stay happy. That's how you have great mental health, is just being true to yourself and not being so hard on yourself. That's no matter what position you're in, or what like profession or anything like that. Just do you, have fun with it, be kind to yourself, because that's, at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
That's a great way to close the show, Karlene. Thank you so much for coming on Flack Talk.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
If you liked Flack Talk and want to learn more about your favorite muckrakers and newsbreakers, please hit the subscribe button or visit flacktalk.com. New Flack Talk episodes with James Canning air every other week, wherever you get your podcasts.